Well, okay, so now what's going on here? The last battlefield. Okay. Yeah, hey, goatee. Yes, this is my goatee here. Okay, let's have something to drink. So I'm watching Time Team. This is a fantastic series. It's really great. I love to watch this. It's amazing. So, well, it's not so bad. It's a nicer place. This is the bastard becoming a conqueror. Okay, wow. Oh yes, roast potatoes. This is what I like. Amazing. Mmm. Wow. Mmm. Mmm. This is so good. Oh yeah. This is great food. It's vegetable. It's just roast potatoes and slice it with 3 eggs. That's all. No meat. I asked the butcher, shall we meat? No, I don't want to meat me. Oh. No meat. Just potatoes and eggs. That's all. And it tastes amazing. It's beautiful. Mmm. Mmm. Yeah. Oh yeah. This is fantastic. Delicious. Mmm. 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 Yeah. Hmm. Yum, yum, yum. Oh, yeah. Mm. Mm. That's amazing. Mm. Thank you, liking, yes. Beautiful. Mm, nom, nom, nom. Oh, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Nice. Oh, that's a little more. Okay. Hmm. Oh, I'm watching YouTube here. Counting. Very interesting about excavations.
sort of bits that would you expect to lose most frequently?
Well, you do tend to leave teeth behind.
Do you lose them in a reenact?
I've left teeth behind on the battlefield, yes. These are historically correct. I've lost brooches, military chainmails, jewellery, silverware, rings, they all go. But I may lose that today, which means that I may drop my scabbard.
If you lost that, that's scabbard. That is the sort of thing that would get hoovered up and
Well,
Leave that behind. If you see that, you pick it up, you take it home, you try and repair it.
let's see how we're doing.
Even broken ones were highly prized, so our team's chances of finding the Greek crown is
Okay,
slim.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
At Hastings,
Nice.
scavengers would have stripped the dead as soon as the fighting finished, leaving behind only small bits of damaged armor.
So, yeah, let's see. Oh, this looks so pretty. It tastes even better.
The tapestry has a remarkable eye of detail. It shows how the two armies fought, the weapons used, even the steel array. I'm hoping we can mine it for clues to make up for the lack of archaeology. So I've come to see what the tapestry was made. Not France, as you might expect, but Canterbury, the birthplace of English Christianity. I suppose all of us from childhood love tapestries, being always always
Very short down the back of Hastings, and it's 70 metre long.
Oi. This is so great.
Scholars like Joanna
Isn't it? Cody.
adore this fragile embroidery. The tapestry is a gigantic piece of Norman propaganda. It was created by English men and women. Will anyone take the commission?
There are various theories, but the most likely candidate is actually depicted many times on the tapestry himself. It's Bishop Odo, who is William Cromwell's half-brother.
So he was a phatic bishop.
According to the tapestry, not according to any written sources, which is interesting in itself. Yes, it's one of the reasons why. Exactly. From the style of the imagery, it looks as if introduced into the
Oi.
design went out so
Fantastic.
So this isn't something that would have been carved out frame by frame.
No, the way it's all been worked and it's been fitted together now, it was definitely working in non-possibility workshops.
Bishop Odo's English workforce infused the tapestry with subtle messages. They show the Saxons as brave and heroic. But we need to handle their creation with care. The artists weren't at the back, so they sometimes felt in drawings to bring the tapestry to life. And large parts were restored in the 19th century, including Harold's famous death scene. We've all grown up with the story that Harold died from an arrow in his eye.
Well.
Made 100 years before the tapestry was repaired shows a different weapon.
Yeah. Oh.
Where the arrow is now, which may actually represent a spear, and it's interestingly on the
Yum, yum.
where the embroidery was originally, and it kind of line up with that line that you see there.
So originally it wasn't a story about a guy being hit by an arrow, there was a lark or something like that, and some later period designers just kind of needed to take
Oh, yeah. Okay, everybody's welcome here.
A discovery like this shows just how little
Watching, listening,
battle
and remember, liking,
archaeology can prove
sharing,
place.
following.
Our team is using high-powered metal detectors to investigate two potential battlefields. One is a place called Crawbeck Hill, and the other is at Battle Abbey. And at the official battlefield, the team has made a major step forward. Scientists lay forward the modern rubbish that's littering Battle Abbey's fields.
You getting much signal out of here?
What we've been taking off with the machine all that. But then, you take that away, listen to that, how quiet that is.
So that confirms that the modern rubbish is just held in the top parts of the plain soil.
That's right. Once the topsoil's off, Phil and Glenn start to pull out genuine archaeology.
Well,
Even
well.
the cultural nail would start to look like an arrowhead after a few decades. So some of the more corrosive finds are bagged up and sent away for X-ray analysis. For English heritage, our dig is a bit of a risk. The traditional battlefield attracts more than 100,000 visitors every year.
Yeah. Oh, let's get a little more. Roast potatoes.
He's convinced that the Abbey stands on the battlefield because the monks had to go to extraordinary lengths to build it where history says Alfred was killed.
If you look around you, this fine 13th century fort, look at the height of the ceiling. Okay, well that's a step into the next room, and you'll see that things change quite dramatically. Absolutely, the floor lines dropped away, and you're suddenly
Was en lille barbecue. Så sprayet kan gøre det hele tiden. Ja.
Battlefields follow the rules of etiquette and moved to standard medieval Abbey floor plan. But this hill was too small, so they were forced to build into it. And that resulted in this massive, oversized room.
It's bonkers to build an abbey on a steep hillside. You have to go from this length to actually the buildings you need, and also
Well, well.
flushing water to take away all your waste as well. If not the metal, why else?
The monks who lived here also thought this was a terrible place to build an abbey. Or at least, that's what they wanted us to believe. I've come to the British Library to delve a little deeper into the history they wrote. This beautifully illustrated chronicle was written more than 100 years after Hastings, and yet it's far more specific than earlier histories, which linked the abbey to the battlefield. Historian Laura Ash take it with a pinch of salt.
The claim they make is that the high altar in the abbey is precisely where King Harold's standard, his banner, fell.
That's pretty definite, isn't it?
It's definite, it's very precise, it's just not trustworthy. The writer of this chronicle had an absolute interest in saying that this abbey is the preserver of the Norman claim to the throne, that it was given incredible freedoms and land by King William for this reason, because it was built precisely to commemorate his victory.
The monks claimed that William made a solemn promise to build an abbey on the battlefield if he won at Hastings. It's a fabulous story, which they embellished with the idea that William forced them to build it where the abbey now is.
They say there was no
Well,
stone.
oh yeah.
Although that was quite plausible. Well, so yes, it's really convincing, right up until we get to the next bit, which is where we discover that then, miraculously, they find some stone, and miraculously, they discover that there is a spring, and therefore it turns out to be not quite such a bad site after all.
But there's another, more intriguing source. The Anglo-Saxon Chronicle is one of the oldest books in the English language, and our only Saxon description of the battle. For 1066, the chronicler tells us its original name.
Harold Gadarada, Mitchell the Herder, Biggest Garden Wicked, and Conventilianus at Harlow Abbot. So,
Oh,
the
good.
hoary York.
So we've got a place
Right, come here.
Yeah, so I mean it's very unclear. So for a long time people were translating
Oh well.
No one knows where this mysterious tree once stood. Some historians believe the abbey was built on top of it, but others say the tree marked an ancient meeting place on Coldback Hill. And John Greer believes that what the chronicler was trying to tell us is that this is where Harold and William also fought.
Any luck?
Hmm.
Nothing really so far. Just as we speak, I'm uncovering this sort of random lump of iron, which is fairly typical of the stuff that we're getting out of the field so far. What is it? I don't know. It's a lump.
It's not sword blade.
It's not a sword blade, I'm afraid. As we move in that direction, close to where the main action of the battle supposedly happens, we're more likely to find it.
So looks like your theory is still alive and kicking for a while.
So where are the remains of this terrible dead? Neither of our two sites is delivering battlefield archaeology. Every space is close.
Oh yeah, this is great.
We're going to bring in the latest technology to help us even the odds. And our hunt for Hastings is about to take a dramatic turn.
If you'd like to see more episodes like this, you can make it
Mm-hmm.
1,000 Patreon members worldwide and see new digs take place, amazing additional extras.
In 1066, the entire English army, some 7,000 men, was wiped out at the Battle of Hastings. Time Team's investigating two potential battlefields at the same time. A place called Coldback Hill, half a mile from Battle Town Centre, and the traditional site of Battle Abbey. Phil Harding and the team have targeted an old field boundary at the Abbey. It's beginning to deliver some exciting finds, which prove that metal objects can survive here for hundreds of years.
What have you got there then, Glenn?
It's probably one of the first things we found that's just got that feel that it's very medieval.
Yes, but what is it?
You get lots of bells used on animals, you get betrothal bells, you get even open bells.
Yeah, but the crucial thing is that you said you thought that it was the first thing that might well be medieval. You know, that is a good sign. And Roy, from your point of view, it must be quite a leap of as to actually put in this trench.
Wow, that's so great. Oi, oi.
And it's things like this which reflect all the various uses the site's been put to.
More medieval finds soon emerge, like this delicate copper alloyed brooch. It's inscribed with the timeless phrase, "Love conquers all." But it's not a military find, and that's not surprising, because it dates to about 100 years after the battle. So I've come to the town museum to investigate a new lead. This rusting lump of iron is an axe head, one of 3 donated to the museum in the 1950s.
For decades, this intriguing piece of metal was thought to be a woodcutter's axe, dating from the 9th to the 13th centuries. That is, until it was taken to a historical weapons expert in London, who thought it might just be an Anglo-Saxon battle axe.
The axe head's twisted by rust, but its blade is broad and brutal. And its shape is possibly similar to that of a battle axe. According to local legend, it was found about 200 metres from the Abbey wall.
It is tempting to think it was used by an Anglo-Saxon warrior, isn't it? Maybe it snapped in half and was lost in the fray. But without knowing exactly where it was found, deep in the ground
Well, well.
way for testing.
Oh, yeah.
Scientists at Kiel University in Germany are able to carbon date iron objects by testing traces of wood left over from their manufacture. It's a bit of a gamble because the axe was contaminated with varnish during the 1950s. And a valuable battle axe is not something we'd normally expect to have been left behind on a battlefield. But the Bayeux tapestry does show these vicious two-handed weapons breaking apart in the heat of battle. It would be ironic if the only physical proof for the battle had been sitting on a local museum shelf all along. Hastings matters to a lot of people here. But like all great stories, it can attract apparently quite wild speculation. I'm on my way to check out a third potential site. And to meet a man whose
Yeah.
name is just won't ever away. Local historian Nick Austin believes that the battle took place in Crowhurst, 2 miles from Battle Abbey and Corbeck Hill. He's written a book, and his theory has grabbed national headlines.
Have you got any evidence for this bit of the battlefield, or is it just supposition?
There's a lot of evidence. In fact, my case relies completely on all the documents written at the time, together with archaeology at the bottom of this field. When you take the documents, you realise that when applied to this site, the topography is specific, and it allows you to
Oh, well.
completely different.
This is so great.
Nick's quest began more than 20 years ago with a vision. He's also tried dowsing, which he says has revealed traces of a Turkish-style crossbow used in the battle.
You see the guys with the crossbows in the bottom section of the tapestry, and you look carefully at them, and you'll see that these aren't Frenchmen. They've got big noses and skirts. These are Turks. I'm quite sure of it. And so we get being given the clues, but we didn't know.
First time.
Okay, let's get to the last piece.
Nick's been
Oh, yeah.
involved in the archaeological establishment, who he sees are turning a blind eye to the truth. He's adamant that there's extensive archaeology in Crowhurst and the nearby area. So we've asked weapons specialist Tom Richardson to look at 2 finds, which Nick thinks could be a couple of Norman helmet rings.
Now, why do you think that's happening?
That basically has 2 holes in it. What we know is that very early constructions had 2 on the side and 1 at the top. The way I see these helmets constructed was a single piece of sheet, thrown into place as a cone, and then this was effectively flat over the top, which gives us
Oh, yeah. So great.
clearly suggested that
Yeah.
like
Oh, it's fantastic. Yum, yum.
It's very, very light. Now, most aren't thinner than you expect it to be, but this is incredible. This isn't protection. This is really well thin. I don't like the idea of a very, very thin iron strip being hammered over the top of a one-piece helm, which is performed superbly. And the idea of a little nasal, it's a little keyboard screw-clip nasal, that it can hit it with a hammer, would just bash back into your face, would become disnormal.
What would be your gut feeling of these 2 things together?
Well, I don't know. I'd like to talk to a expert on barrel hoops and buckets. My instinct, as someone who's studied armour for a long time, is that this is useful.
That does look a bit buckety, doesn't it?
It doesn't. The problem is, it is a bucket. There's a big hole in it. The problem is, it's not something you're going to carry water into. It's got a hole in one.
I'm convinced that the battle didn't happen in Crowhurst if these finds are anything to go on. But I'm going to consider this
Well, well.
both our candidates are wrong for the So we've asked landscape archaeologists Alex Langlands and Stuart Ainsworth to see if we should be looking for a third potential battlefield. First, they need to reconstruct what East Sussex looked like 900 years ago. This geological model shows that in 1066, many of these hills were effectively islands in a sea of marshland. Red signifies height, and Cornbeck Hill can be seen for miles around. That's significant, because the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle tells us that Harold gathered his army to prominent land, distinguished by a narrow tree.
I think if we had to arrange between me and you at this point, I wanted somewhere to rally people to come and meet me. I would certainly choose Cornwall.
So Harold's army is then coming down from the north. If they can see Cornbeck Hill, if they can see it standing there, they know they've got somewhere to aim for.
That's right.
The English surely met at Cornbeck Hill, but the key to controlling this landscape was the road which ran beneath it. In 1066, the Normans were at Hastings, and this track was the only way out.
Wouldn't be going in and out of these big, deep, wet, marshy valleys like that. Wouldn't be any sense.
This is all very heavy clay as well around here, so if it does get waterlogged, then it's almost impossible. It's difficult to walk through, let alone ride on.
You'll have to go through battle.
Harold must have chosen battle as the place to stop William from escaping the Hastings Peninsula. But it's difficult to work out exactly where he decided to block the road, because today the area is heavily built up. So I've come here to this old World War II airfield in Essex, where we're about to launch the first ever laser survey of a British battlefield, using a fabulous piece of technology called aerial LiDAR.
What exactly is LiDAR?
LiDAR is a mixture of light and radar, effectively. What we have in here is a device that sends out 100,000 flashes of laser light per second. And these flashes of light go down to the surface and come back as a measurement.
How might it help our archaeology?
We can classify what that reflection actually is. Then we can actually remove those buildings and pretty much what the ground looks like at that time.
So I feel that the topography, we might be able to see like generals were making decisions that they did.
Oh,
So all this time finally revealed the
oh
road
wait, this is amazing.
and explained why
Wow.
everyone was worried.
Yeah.
In a couple of hours, we could have the answer. High in the skies above East Sussex, Time Team was carrying out the first ever laser survey of a British battlefield. The crew's circling two different potential locations where the Battle of Hastings could have been fought. But down below, neither site's looking like a battlefield. The excavation team has dug 3 strips totaling 180 metres across the official battlefield and metal detected more than 30,000 square feet of Cornbeck Hill. We've also x-rayed the most heavily corroded finds. Not a single object is battle-related. This arrow-shaped spike is just a piece of electric cable. But the aircraft's onboard laser will scan the whole town in 3 dimensions, picking up anything bigger than a paving stone. It might allow us to identify the exact bit of ground on which William and Harold chose to fight. So I met up with historian Mark Morris to try to understand what was going
Cheers.
through the minds of the two generals.
William's strategy, as far as we can tell in 1066, is he wants to egg Harold on, draw him down from London, and bring him to battle. The famous scene that they have to avoid setting fire to a house from which a woman and child flee. By harrying the landscape, he is being provocative. This is Harold's own lordship before he was king. So he's terrorising Harold's own tenants. Now, Harold can't let that
he's got to come back. He has to win. He has to kill Harold. In Harold's case, Harold doesn't need an outright victory. Harold just wait for the Normans to run out of food. He can engage him and retire. So I think in Harold's case, it is entirely humorous. He could just settle for a draw, whereas William needs an knockout victory. So both sides were looking for a fight. But the English scouts on Coldback Hill spotted the Normans coming straight for them. Harold had failed if he was hoping to surprise William. So what was his next move?
Wow.
Alex is meeting Alan Larson, who specialises in recreating 11th century warfare.
Hello, Alan. Nice to meet you. I think you get out of that gear there.
The Normans and the Saxons had very different fighting styles.
Civil War, please, gentlemen.
The Saxons fought behind what was known as a shield wall, a solid mass of spears, swords and axes honed by fighting the Vikings for more than 200 years.
Of course, this shield wall is more than just a very strong defensive defense. It's a psychological defense as well. They know if they hold this wall and can't be outflanked, they could still been there on Christmas Day 1066.
The shield wall worked best on high ground. But at Hastings, this mass of men faced a new type of enemy, a rain of arrows which heralded heavily armoured Norman cavalry. Individual Saxon warriors fought on their own would have been no match, as Joe, our Saxon whisperer, is about to find out.
How was that viewing, Joe?
Not pleasant.
No. What did you think, Alan?
Well, what we saw there encapsulated the experience in October 1066. You got this solid, unhuman presence.
Wow.
Coming in against that
Yes.
mobility and the speed of the Norman cavalry, this can kill. This can let the horses hit it. But if the blow is misdirected, then he's vulnerable, and that cavalry can get, as we saw, can get in and around, and he's dead meat.
The Norman cavalry needed good solid ground. The Saxons needed somewhere they could keep their shield wall as tight as possible to hold them off. The aerial laser has scanned the terrain so perfectly the answer jumps out.
The detail in that is absolutely amazing.
It is, and you can see here the detail in the buildings, the field patterns, everything on the ground itself.
This computer can work out the town's true ground surface.
Now you'll see it disappear kilometre by kilometre square.
And it reveals that Coldback Hill, where the Saxon army gathered, is too big to defend with the shield wall.
I mean, William's forces are highly mobile, so if Harold's perched right on top of Coldback Hill, William's got the opportunity to ride round them and look for a weak place.
Harold couldn't have held Coldback, so his army must have moved somewhere stronger to block the Norman advance. But we can be sure that William wasn't riding down through the Abbey fields. This boggy ground would have been suicidal for his cavalry.
Well, unless William crawled out of the marsh, then it wouldn't make sense, would it?
It would have been foolish for William on this high talent hill coming down here to then go into the boggy bit and up that side.
But there's one point which both armies would have made a dash for. This narrow gap is where the road out of the Hastings Peninsula goes up Batters Hill.
This becomes a critical piece of strategic landscape when you think of William wanting to advance and Harold wanting to advance. So we
Wow.
have to advance, not where, but along this little ridge of high ground to that neck just there. If Harold could concentrate his defensive forces across that ridge there, then effectively he controls the battlefield.
If we're right, then we need to turn the battlefield 90 degrees from the present one. And most of the fighting took place on the edge of today's town. this is what we think happened. Harold, hoping to trap William on the Hastings Peninsula, rushed down to battle. He occupied Corbett Hill, where he met up with the rest of his army. But he didn't realise that William was heading straight for him. He then moved to block the narrow pass into battle.
If we're right, what you've got to imagine is this. William and his army come up that hill here. Harold and his men have already come from up there, and they threw up a wall of shields all the way across here, but they only have to go as far as here because then that slope falls away. So this is the perfect place for the Battle of Hastings.
Okay.
The Normans must have struggled to dislodge the Saxon shield wall from this narrow gap. The historian, William Jumièges, says that the fighting went on until nightfall. This was a hasty, hard-fought battle between two evenly matched sides. But as the English shield wall thinned down, the Norman cavalry punched through, leaving the infantry to finish the job. We're convinced that this location east of the Abbey is where the battle really took place. Intriguingly, this is where legend says the museum axe was found. Our carbon-14 tests have now confirmed that it is very old indeed. We can't give an exact date because the axe has been badly contaminated. But for the first time, we can say it was made before 1600. I'd like to think a Saxon warrior did wield it at the Battle of Hastings. English Heritage has welcomed our landscape investigation, which it says confirms the strategic value of the ridge dominated by the Abbey. And it wants to look again at how it's
Well,
Historian John Breon, who championed Corbett Hill, is now fascinated by the results.
no, not so many likes today. What's going on? Come on, guys.
It's very tricky. And let's face it, the original battle, possibly, was confirmed by this little footage.
You said that the original site of the battlefield was in the wrong place, and you were right.
That makes it right, doesn't it?
So why was the Abbey built where it is? It's possible that Harold was killed where the altar once stood. The English king could have watched the battle unfold from here. But given what we know about him, an experienced general who picked the right strategic spot, and a man with a bit of an impulsive streak,
Well.
then I'd lay bets he was cut down where the fighting was thickest, standing shoulder to shoulder with his household troops. Just like
His household troops. Oh. Household troops.
It's a bizarre notion that our last Anglo-Saxon king might have died not over there by the Abbey, but on that roundabout.
Wow. Amazing. This was beautiful. Yeah.
Join the Time Team on Patreon to access exclusive 3D models, masterclasses, and
Masterclasses. Wow.
While that's a relief for the crew, it's not clear at this point if the 1,000 sailors aboard the 3 destroyers that accompanied the Lincoln are also coming home. Navy officials at the Pentagon declined to tell us now whether the destroyers will be leaving the Middle East as well. They also declined to respond to questions about conditions on board the destroyers and denied reports of poor conditions on the Lincoln. That silence calls into question what Navy leadership told the families of service members at an in-person town hall earlier this month, according to 4 people who attended. Officers at that meeting described the strike group as a composite unit and said the Navy intended to bring the whole formation home together. And as now Pentagon reporter Priya Sridhar wrote this story and is with us now. Priya, you spoke with a sailor on board one of the
Okay,
destroyers.
well,
You spoke to family members.
oh, that was great food.
Tell me
Oh,
about
I
the
really
mission
enjoyed that.
and the morale.
That was beautiful.
The sailor that we spoke to on one of the destroyers called the morale.
Okay, so what's going on here?
These destroyers, their mission was to protect the carrier. One of those destroyers left with the Lincoln from San Diego at the beginning of this deployment back in November, and the other 2 destroyers joined up with the Lincoln in the Indo-Pacific after having left from Joint Base Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. But the bottom line is they have been there right alongside the Lincoln, dealing with the same supply chain issues, dealing with deployment extensions because this mission hasn't ended, and now they have no clear indication because Navy leadership hasn't told them that they're going home. And what makes all of this even more interesting is we know that the USS George Washington, the aircraft carrier that's usually home ported in Japan, is moving towards the Middle East to potentially relieve the Lincoln. But according to the U.S. Naval Institute, which tracks the Navy's 300 vessels, it's only moving with 2 destroyers, not 3. And that's because that 3rd destroyer, the USS Benfold, at the end of July, had that caused the 300 or so sailors on board there to have no air conditioning in the South China Sea, no working toilets, and no showers. So now that destroyer has been moved to the Philippines for repair and maintenance, and it's unclear if they're ever going to be reunited with the Washington, but that could be why one of these 3 destroyers that was with the Lincoln could be left behind to protect the
Okay,
Washington.
so
I want you to take a listen to
this
what
is not much of flights here.
this entire mission and how it's impacting sailors not too long ago in Massachusetts. Take a listen.
This disaster on the Abraham Lincoln lays bare the fact that the administration had no strategy getting into this war, has no clue how to get out of it, and the war has completely backfired, so now the ship cannot even go into ports that used to be safe ports in the region for resupply. On top of that, they're clearly admitting it's a problem because they're now bailing it out by pulling the carrier out of the Pacific, where we have to be deterring and preventing a war with China.
So, Errol, I think the bottom line is that this mission that was supposed to just be a few weeks long, the extension of it is having a domino effect, not just for sailors, but also for our military assets around the world. Priya, thank you so much for this reporting. Keep talking to those servicemen and women and reporting back to us. We appreciate it.
Well. Stoppen schreiben now. Yes.
Det ligger en helt spesiell båt.
So now 34 past the hour, President Trump saying there are no talks with Iran or any conversations in the works. This comes as the Wall Street Journal reports that Iran's mounting aggression in the Strait is pushing the buttons of the U.S. military. Fox News contributor Dan Hoffman, former CIA chief of stations, and Dan, good to see you. This month alone, UAE reports that 7 ships have been targeted. That's higher than 0. And at one point during this conflict, that would simply have not been acceptable. What is your read on as to why?
Well, Iran is trying to drive up the cost for the United States and our allies by disrupting trade in the Strait of Hormuz. And they feel like if they can impose significant costs on us, that they can withstand the costs we're imposing on them through the blockade. Iran is continuing to make maximalist demands. There are no negotiations going on because Iran is demanding that we remove the blockade, that we release their frozen stop conducting military activity in the region. Obviously, the Trump administration isn't going to do that. I think what President Trump is doing is asking his intelligence community whether we are pushing Iran to the breaking point with our economic pressure, or whether we are looking at a long-term economic war of attrition.
Okay, so then we go to others in the region. And others in the region include Vladimir Putin, all right? Institute for the Study of War, Jack Kane's group, among others, says Russia has continued to provide direct military support to Iran through weapons and weapons components transfers. We're talking about the Caspian Sea in terms of resupply. What do you think of that, or how do you view that? And also, what about the targeting ability of Iran's military?
Well,
Actually quite accurate, more so than a lot of people would think. Where's that come from, other than Putin?
Yeah, so Russia strongly aligned with China, North Korea, and Iran, and Russia's currency is intelligence. They supply Iran with satellite intelligence derived from human sources as well, so that Iran can more effectively target our bases in the region. Vladimir Putin wants the United States to be tied up in the Middle East, and he wants the oil prices to continue to go up. That helps Russia with the extent to which they export oil. They'll earn more money to be able to conduct their war, their barbaric war on Ukraine.
In the meantime, he's blaming NATO for what's happening in Kyiv, right? And on that rolls. So, I mean, it seems to be all interconnected. And Putin would have great incentive to keep the United States involved in the Strait of Hormuz and Iran for some time. Move further east. This may have surprised a lot of people. Here we go again. Here's the headline. President Trump pushes for Kim Jong-un to have a meeting this year. That's the headline. I was watching the Reuters wire a short time ago. His sister says that the Trump and Kim relationship is, quote, truly excellent. What is your read on this? What would they have to talk about? And isn't North Korea helping Iran as well during this conflict?
And North Korea has been an ally of Iran for a long time, providing Iran with military technology, missile technology. They're also providing Russia with artillery and reportedly planning to send 50,000 troops to augment Russia's ongoing attacks on Ukraine. I think we have to be careful not to conflate whatever personal relationship the president has with Kim Jong-un with the fact that North Korea is an ally of China and Russia and Iran, and whose interests are antithetical to ours in the region. We have to be careful about risking any appearance of placating Kim Jong-un so that we can get to the negotiating table. I think Kim Jong-un is perfectly happy to sit down with the President of the United States and be perceived as a leader in the world who can go toe-to-toe with President Trump. But as we saw in 2018, those might result in summits, but they might not result in real agreements which would serve our national security. That's where the challenge is. I think that's where the president needs to be asking Director CIA Ratcliffe whether North Korea is interested in making a deal. There's no evidence that they are. They've been increasing their nuclear arsenal, their ballistic missile arsenal, and threatening South Korea as well as the United States.
Okay, third week in September, President Xi expected the White House, and we'll see whether or not this Chairman Kim meeting comes following that. Thank you, Dan. Good to get your perspective on all of that. And all of it. Thanks.
Hello, everyone. This is today's wild ride around the world. Let's get started.
Well.
The war between Hitler and Stalin cost more than 25 million lives.
Well. Okay, now let's see how we're doing. So it was tonight, so we are not even 1 hour, so that's okay.
Trump just dropped bombshell evidence from the 2020 election, which completely changes the entire election integrity debate. We've been told for years by the Democrats and the media that non-citizens, illegals, are not voting in American elections. It doesn't happen. And if it does, it's so insignificant that it really does not matter. And
The I Want to Live project was created so that servicemen of the Russian army.
Well.
A tomb sealed for 4,000 years was finally opened, and the real shock had nothing to do with treasure. You are standing at the threshold. The stone is cold beneath your fingertips. The air that rushes out is older than most civilizations still standing today.
Well.
On July 17th, 2026, a 90,000-ton warship finished its final exam off the coast of Southern California. 3 days of acceptance trials, every major system tested, every benchmark met. The USNS Hector A. Cafferata Jr. passed, and this summer the Navy takes delivery of a brand new expeditionary sea base. And then something strange happens. Nothing. No keel laying for the next hull, no follow-on contract, no announcement of a 7th ship. Because there is no 7th ship. The Cafferata is the last expeditionary sea base the United States Navy will ever build. And that should not make sense. This is the cheapest big-deck warship in the American inventory. It cost roughly a quarter of a traditional amphibious ship, while delivering, by analyst estimates, about 70% of the capability. It is in demand across 3 combatant commands at once. Special Operations Forces stage from it. The Marines borrow it. Officers writing in the Navy's own professional journal have publicly begged for more of them. When the Navy finds a design that works, it builds it in bulk. Aircraft carriers, 11. Arleigh Burke destroyers, more than 70, and the line is still running. The Expeditionary Sea Base, 6. Full stop. So why does the most powerful Navy on Earth walk away from a winner? The answer is not one reason. It is 5. And by the time you reach the 5th, you may conclude that the ship itself was never the thing being judged. Start with what the Navy is walking away from. The ESB began as a shortcut. Take the hull of an Alaska-class commercial oil tanker, a design General Dynamics NASSCO in San Diego already knew how to build fast and cheap. Strip out the oil tanks, add a 52,000 square foot flight deck with 4 landing spots, a hangar, a cavernous reconfigurable mission deck, berthing for hundreds, and enough range to cross an ocean and stay there. The result is 785 feet of floating infrastructure that displaces 90,000 tons, sails 9,500 nautical miles at 15 knots, and hosts up to 250 embarked troops on top of its hybrid crew of roughly 44 civilian mariners and 100 sailors. The first one, the USS Lewis B. Puller, delivered in 2015 and was commissioned in Bahrain in 2017. The first American warship ever commissioned on foreign soil. It has anchored the Middle East ever since. Its sister ship holds down Africa and the Mediterranean from Suda Bay, Greece. Another operates in the Pacific, where Marines have been flying helicopters off its deck near Okinawa and treating it as a floating expeditionary base. The demand signal was not subtle. In April 2024, the U.S. Naval Institute's proceedings published an argument from a retired Marine officer that the Navy should stop buying $2 billion San Antonio-class amphibious ships and stop waiting for the still unbuilt landing ship Medium, and instead buy more of the sea bases it already knew how to build. The Marine Corps says it needs at least 31 amphibious ships to meet its obligations. It does not have them. Here was a hull that cost a quarter of the alternative, delivered from a proven production line with a flight deck bigger than anything short of a carrier or big deck amphib. Ask yourself the question the Navy's own officers were asking. If the fleet is short on hulls, and this hull is the cheapest one available, why would you ever stop at 6? Eliminate the obvious answers first. Did the ship fail? No. The Cafarata just demonstrated its full range of capabilities in front of the Navy's own inspectors. The class has spent a decade doing exactly what it was designed to do, including mine countermeasures, special operations staging, and maritime security in 3 theaters simultaneously. Commanders did not stop requesting these ships. Was it money? Also no. There's no cheaper way to
A little bit too loud, sorry.
the contested region.
Well,
A program does not die of expense.
very interesting watching.
Least expensive thing on the menu, which means the real reasons live somewhere less comfortable.
Oh, I'm having a great
The
time.
Navy cannot crew the ships it already owns. Every expeditionary sea base runs on civilian mariners from Military Sealift Command, and Military Sealift Command is in the middle of a personnel crisis. The numbers are stark. Roughly 5,500 mariners fill about 4,500 billets across the fleet, a ratio of 1.27 people per job, when healthy crew rotation requires about 1.4. Mariners were working 4 months at sea for 1 month off, and they started leaving. In August 2024, USNI News revealed a draft plan with a name that sounds like an admission: the Force Generation Reset. 17 support ships would be sidelined so their crews could be reassigned. And on that draft list, according to people familiar with the plan, were 2 expeditionary sea bases, the Puller in Bahrain and the Herschel Woody Williams in Greece. The 2 most visible, most forward deployed ships of the class. That November, the commander of Military Sealift Command confirmed it. 17 ships sidelined, manning reduced on 2 sea bases, and a need for 800 to 1,000 additional mariners just to reach healthy staffing. It went further. When Expeditionary Sea Base 7, the Robert E. Simonek, delivered in late 2024, the Navy did not crew it the traditional way at all. It signed an agreement to man the ship's licensed positions with contract mariners from a private operator because the government workforce was stretched too thin. Sit with that sequence. The Navy was not deciding whether to order an 8th sea base. It was deciding whether it could keep sailors on the 3rd and 4th.
Oh, yeah.
You do not build more ships when you cannot man the ones tied to the pier. If a Navy that walks away from its own cheapest warship makes you want to understand how these decisions actually get made, subscribe, because the crewing crisis is only the first layer, and the layers underneath cut deeper. Reason 2, the war the Navy is planning for changed. The ESB carries no armor, no missile defense system, no close-in weapons system, no Aegis radar. Its self-defense consists of 12 crew-served machine gun mounts, 50 caliber and 7.62 millimeter, operated by sailors standing on deck. That was a reasonable machine gun is enough against what the Navy now spends its nights worrying about. Anti-ship ballistic missiles, 1,000-mile precision strike, a fight in the Western Pacific. A 785-foot converted tanker moving at 15 knots is not a platform. It is a target. Every shipbuilding dollar now flows through one filter. Does this survive the high-end fight? The ESB was built for the wars America was actually fighting. The budget is built for the war America is afraid of. Reason 3, the shipyard itself is a bottleneck. NASSCO's San Diego waterfront builds the ESB. And something else, the John Lewis class fleet oilers. The ships that carry the fuel that keeps carriers and destroyers moving. The Navy's logistics fleet is widely considered its most dangerous shortfall. A fleet without oilers is a fleet that stops. The latest oiler contract came in at $856 million for a single hull, and the Navy wants them as fast as NASSCO can deliver. In a shipyard, the scarcest resource is not steel. It is space and time on the building ways. Every sea base under construction is an oiler that is not. Forced to choose between a ship that is useful and a ship that is existential, the Navy
Oh yeah.
reason
That was so great.
customer gave it a lukewarm endorsement. The Expeditionary Sea Base was pitched in large part as a floating base for special operations. In March 2024, U.S. Special Operations Command told Naval News exactly how it sees the class, and the wording is surgical. The sea bases augment special operations staging requirements, the command said, but they are not sufficient as standalone bases for most of the operations it executes. In practice, SOCOM uses them predominantly for overflow deck space when other ships are full. Read that the way a budget officer reads it, the customer the ship was built around treats it as a spare room, not a home. Nobody funds hull number 7 on a part-time endorsement. And reason 5, the quietest one. The requirement was simply met. The program was never a series production run like the destroyer line. It grew one contract at a time. 3 ships, then a 4th, a 5th, a 6th, each added to cover a specific gap on the map. One sea base anchoring the Middle East, one for Africa and Europe, one in the Pacific. The newer hulls provide rotation depth, while older ships cycle through maintenance. 6 hulls cover the geography. Presence does not scale the way firepower does. A 7th ship would not create a new ocean to sit in.
Well.
In October 1997, the United States Navy killed the most heavily armed surface warship it had designed since World War II. Not because it failed a test, not because the technology didn't work. The ship never touched water. It died over a budget gap of $115 million on a defense budget of roughly $250 billion. That is less than 1/20th of 1%. For that rounding error, the Navy walked away from a vessel designed to carry 500 cruise missiles, sail with a crew of 50, and cost less than $500 million. 4 times the firepower of a cruiser at a quarter of the price of the destroyers being built today. And here's the part that should stop you. Almost 30 years later, the Navy is spending billions of dollars trying to build back exactly what it threw away. Destroyers in the Red Sea have burned through their missile cells and left an active fight to sail days away and reload. The problem the Arsenal ship was designed to solve in 1996 is the problem the fleet is living with right now.
This footage
Pot.
Well, technically, you actually should have visited here, even before the royal palaces. This place holds the spirit of Joseon, the kingdom that ruled for 500 years before the Korea we know today. This is Cheongmyo, the royal ancestral shrine for the Joseon dynasty. In the past, the ruling ideology of the Joseon kingdom.
Everything you were taught about the samurai is a polished
The Strait of Hormuz. Oh.
Der findes en by i det russiske Arktis, hvor du ikke må sætte fod. Der bor ingen fastboende mennesker der. Kun verdens største børnehave for isbjørn. Strande begravet under 100.000vis af hvalrosser. En frossen spøgelsesby og hemmelige radarer, som stadig peger mod himlen.
Okay, I think
Sover vira, der er ældre end de
I
store.
think I will stop now. So this is not much going on here. Okay, thanks for being here, guys. Always welcome to go live with me. Bye bye.